All right, it's Wednesday, April 5th. This is an end of the day SPY recap, and today we end up with a two down bar, made a lower low from yesterday, and it kind of, for the moment, held up inside this fair value gap that developed. There's a few gaps on the way up here as price walked up, but you have the low of this bar and the high of this bar. This area is one fair value gap. It seems like we held that area, which is definitely something you were looking out for. And this sets up an actionable signal for tomorrow. You have the 3 bar here, so it's a 3, 2 down. If we get a 2 up tomorrow, that's a buy signal, where at that point you would think you're taking out the open of the week, the open of the month, the open of the quarter, and you're working back towards those highs, and you're getting back in line with the monthly chart that ended March strong, and you expect it to follow through up to those highs. Another reason, if you look at this broadening formation here, well, I'll look at it on the daily chart. Not that this stuff is that scientific, but a lot of times it works out. If you look at the lower lows here and the potential higher highs, this target up here aligns perfectly with that monthly target up here, if you can look at that. So it seems like we want to take that area out one way or another. Well, you know, I'm not saying you're going to get a straight line up there, but certainly we were after a bit of exhaustion risk to the upside here. We wanted this kind of consolidation to build up a little more energy to start higher. So that could be exciting for tomorrow, the upside. We'll see what develops. In terms of today, very typical of this type of a pullback, where the market, as I discussed in the pre-open video, between the blue lines, you weren't really at this point, you were starting at the bottom of that pre-market range. You started up kind of not really a great green bar, but you did break above that on bar number 2. Now, when you see that internally, you know, a breakout to the upside in the first bar, your target is just that pre-market high, first of all, and then you see what happens from there, as opposed to a very strong opening, which is usually above those pre-market highs. So anyway, we went up for 1 bar, then this next bar went up. It took out those stops. I talked about how this yellow line is critical. That's the open of the month, and we really needed to get above there to really confirm that we're heading higher. As you can see here, we're way below the midpoint of the prior day. That's definitely an area I'm always looking at. So we really need to break above that to get an up bias on this day. And as it turned out, the market immediately reversed and went down. And at that point, I was looking at, let me click on it. I was monitoring the SPY versus the QQQs, and the QQQs was weak right from the start. So I went short that, and as typically happens with these directional moves, I say it over and over again, you get the first move of the day. A lot of times that's 70-80% of the move of the day. You have an orderly pullback, you make a test of the intraday low, and that's all. And then at that point, you just chopped around for the rest of the session. Here, same thing on the SPY. You went down, orderly pullback, tested the low, and that was it. So this was the morning trade to take, either the first one or the second one. If you really wanted to be aggressive, and I didn't do it, but it's certainly something that was crossing my mind, when you make that second push down into what is clearly a support area, this fair value gap, when you have an up bias, I mean, if you're going to buy at any time, it would be kind of buying down here on this day and then seeing if you get some kind of a hammer close. We came close to getting one, a green move, but you know, that would be the only counter trend trade type way to do it, where you really have a strong up bias. You see the 2 pushes, let's get back to the 15-minute chart. You see the 2 pushes down into a level that's a support area, because in this case, it was into that fair value gap. And if you spread out the 15-minute chart, you can see this whole area is inefficient pricing, and as well as down here. So if somehow we continue lower, we can still find support in this area eventually. But for now, we're going to see if tomorrow starts above the midpoint of this of today, starts higher. We'll see what the pre-market range is, and then we'll look for, you know, if it does, we'll look for follow through to take out those highs, and of course on the bigger picture chart, going all the way up there eventually in the month of April. So we'll see what happens. Good trading to the short side though, definitely in the morning, and again after you know, the kind of the way yesterday closed with the red bar, knowing you had a little bit of gaps and you know, to fill in down here, it's not surprising you got that opening move to start lower, but also it's not surprising that it didn't have the strongest day down, but there was enough volatility certainly to have a very nice trade here, and even a secondary trade as well on the downside. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. You got the actionable signal to the upside, and we'll just have to see if it unfolds.